Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. Today we're going to look at a game that I bought a while back and just kept on the shelf. Didn't really pull it out. Looked cute, but wasn't just in the mood. And so I pulled it out last week because I thought, hey, maybe now I'm in the mood. It's called Flamecraft, by artwork by Sundara Tang and designed by Manny Vega. This is not your average dragons eating everything, hunt dragons, Dragon Quest, Dragon Ball Z, nothing like that. In this case, you're competing to enchant the town in this dragon placement game with a shared engine building for 1 to 5 players. So all the dragons are just happy, peppy people holding hands. Well, not people. Happy, peppy, purple eater holding hands. Anyway, let's take a look at what's inside. Alright, let's look at what comes inside Flamecraft. Art by Sandra Tang and designed by Manny Vega. You get this cloth poly mat. This represents the city or the town wherein the dragons have lived and breathed and do their thing. You have on this mat you have different slots for up to 12 different shops, and the shops are going to be the focal point of your gameplay. You have artisan dragons. These are dragons that aid and assist you in various ways during the course of play. You've got coins. These are wild card tokens. They can be used for any other type of good. You've got fancy schmancy dragons, and they have 2 different ways to score them. They're all about points. One is the night, which is the end of the game, and then the sunshine is the indication that you can score them during the course of play. They always give you, well, love points. We're going to call them love points because they're basically a big heart. And that's the reputation is really what they're called, but I like love points. Then you have these enchantments. These are enchantments will go on or connect to your, not your, but a shop, a corresponding shop. And when that happens, it beefs up the shop a bit, gives you points. Life is good. Everyone goes home happy. Each of these shops has a little bit of a different penchant. We'll take this one here. There are 6 basic shops that you start the game with. Each one has a place where you can put up to 3 artisan dragons if you meet the criteria. In other words, if the dragon has one of these tokens, you can place it down and get a reward. Place it down and get a reward. Fragile reptile, very funny. All of these are tremendously humorous if you like puns. Hello, nursery, my old friend. Anyway, but Draco Bell. Love it. All right, and then each player doesn't have a whole lot going on in their own tableau. They do get a card which tells them what to do and gives them a few little hints and tidbits. You get a corresponding dragon. So those of you dragging your feet on buying this, well, you get your own dragon. So don't go dragging my heart. And then each player is going to get 3 of these dragons, these artisan dragons, which they'll use. The only other thing you have is a variety of tokens. There are 6 different goods tokens that you will accrue, types of good tokens that you will accrue during the game. I also provided my silver spoon of starting for the start player. I swear it's a blue spoon, but I'm tired of arguing with it. And also there are solo rules and solo cards as well. And that's it, except it does come with a manual, a pizza box size manual, and very colorful, filled and chocked with not only information but also clarification information, some variations for solo play, breakdown of all the pieces. Yes, so there we go. That's it. Now let's get into an example of play. Alright, the object of the game in Flamecraft is to win. And you win by scoring more reputation on the reputation marker, these love points, than any of your opponents. That's as simple as it gets. The 6 buildings start off with a corresponding dragon, which is in their spot, is in one of the slots pre-designated for it. Everything's good to go, and really you have a variety of different shops that will be added during the course of play to fill some of the empty slots. Whenever you've filled an entire shop with 3 dragons, you immediately take one of these, place it face down at the end of your turn, you'll flip it up, and then you have given yourself and your opponents more opportunities to find places to do things. On your turn, you will take your dragon, and I will expose these now, but these dragons are all, there's various types of these dragons, and then there's this. This tells me that anytime during play, after I place an enchantment For example, I can gain 1 reputation per unique enchantment type in town. That's pretty powerful, and it's a timing one. You want to time that just right to maximize the amount of reputation that you will receive. On your turn, you can do one of 2 things, and that's it. You can gather, or you can enchant. And that's it. So what are you going to do on your turn? Why? Why gather? Well, because you want to fulfill and satisfy the conditions of these enchantments. These enchantments are really what you're going to spend your goods on. You'll notice each one has a criteria. I would need a token from the potion lotion place, the potable potions. I would also need one from the Smith Mart. On my turn, and again, you can't gather and enchant in the same turn, so you pick one or the other. You gather the goods, and on your turn, you can do an enchant, and that's all you do. But let's say, for instance, that I chose to go to critical roles. Why? Because maybe I'm going after orcish orchids. Well, I go here, and I can go, because I'm gathering, I get to gather in 4 different realms of responsibility. I look at the token count, 1 here, 1 here, and I grab myself 2 tokens. That's what I'm talking about. Then you may place a dragon if you wish and gain the reward listed. You have to find a corresponding dragon or have one available, and you'll get them over the course of the game through a variety of events or places or etc. And so I'm going to look here and go, I have bread here. I don't meet the criteria to place this because it requires a meat puppet. So I would have to have, say, a dragon here with the meat indicator. But I do match one of these 2, and so I'm going to place it here, and I'm going to get a token. That's my reward. That token is where it will act as any other good for the purposes of buying something. And that's that. And then when I do that, then I can fire up, and all the dragons have some sort of firing up ability, one of these here. And I'm going to go, oh, I get to draw a card. Well, cool. I can draw one from the town here and go, you know what? Looking here, I could use some meat. I'm going to grab one of these meats. Here you go. Good meetup. And that lets me do that. And then if there's any special ability, which the 6 starting shops there aren't, but if there's any special ability on a shop, you can then invoke that at that time. And that's it. That's all you do on your turn. Thank you, Silver Spoon of Starting. Now we go to the next player, and they're going to look and they're going to go, what do I do with my dragon? Now they have an interesting situation, because if they did also want to go here, they would have to pay a good to everybody that's there. That's the penalty for choosing an already existing place. You're not barred from it, but you do have to have enough goods to be good on your word to pay for it. So anyway, so we're gonna look and go, well, what else is interesting? Ooh, I like this one. So maybe I'll go here, but then I can't really play something. But if I go over here, is there anything I can play? I'm looking for anything that lets me. Yes, let's do this. So we're gonna go here, and then immediately grab two of these, one for each icon. So now I've got some green, and that would work there for that. And then I can choose to play if I want a dragon, but I don't have a dragon that qualifies right now. Oh, yes, I do. I lie. Look at that. I can use that here. I'm going to do this one. No, I'm going to do this one just to show you. So I can put it here, and this reward says I can take this specialty dragon, Dazzle. If a shop has 3 of dragons of the same type, I can immediately execute this on my turn and get 6 love points, 6 reputation. All right, so we're done. And then you can activate one of these, which means I can draw a dragon, or I can gift a good to another player to gain 2. So I'm going to go, you know what? Here you go. I didn't need it anyway. And I immediately start the game up 2 points on my reputation. And then, again, no shop ability. And that's what you're going to do. Yeah, that's how it's going to go. The exception, we're just going to cut to the chase. I'm not going to keep playing over and over again, but this is literally what you're doing all game, is you're doing all these things, going over these steps, grabbing resources. You can have up to 7 of each type of resource. So you can accrue quite a bit going over time. And as you add cards, for example, if I couldn't necessarily choose, I can't choose this location again, I'd have to choose a different location. But as I'm moving over, let's say, for instance, that I was able to fulfill this on my turn. Then again, I take this, I can put it anywhere, doesn't matter where, and then finish my turn. Then I'm going to flip it over, and it's going to be the pizza coven. And notice it has a special ability now. I can give any park dragon their matching good for 1 each. So basically I can go through here, and I also fill that. And so that gives me some abilities here that I can use on my turn. So you're going to be filling these out over time. There are certain dragons that honestly let you swap with another dragon, and then you get to execute wherever you swapped. That kind of keeps like the dragons shifting and moving around the town. Let's cut to the chase and pretend that we've accrued. Let's say that we grabbed this much and we went to the butcher and got that. Okay, say we're at this point, and it's like, and it's our turn again, and we want to enchant. What we do is we grab one of these enchantments that we can pay for. We'll grab this one, the Mirror of Truth. We then can pay, and you'll notice 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of 2. So I have 4, 3. So I can create 3 sets of these, and because I've created 3 sets, 1, 2, 3, not only am I going to place this here, which beefs it up, so now people are going to get 2 diamonds, but I'm also going to get 4 points because of what I've turned in. So I would go up to 4, and then you turn in the goods, and there you go. And that's how that goes. And once you do that, then you can activate everything on the location that you've just enchanted. Now in this case, gain 3 different goods. That's pretty powerful, but if you had other ones, you could continue to beef them up. You could do up to 3 upgrades on these shops, and that's how you enchant. And that's literally the point of the whole game. Finish your turn, flip anything that needs to be exposed, all that stuff is going on. You're going to be doing this back and forth over the entire course of the game. The game ends when this pile or that pile are empty and need to be refreshed, and then everyone takes another turn and you get your final score. Other than that, yeah, that's the essence of play. At the end of the game, of course, you're going to resolve any dragons that have nighttime effects, and then count it up and see who's the winner. Easy as pie. And that is Flamecraft. Let's get into my final thoughts on this game. Okay, final thoughts on Flamecraft. As always, we'll go over the cons first, then the pros, and then my final thoughts. The cons in this game are that the gameplay itself is remarkably unremarkable. It's nothing you haven't seen before. It's nothing you haven't seen probably even done better or tighter, and it's not anything that's going to drive you forward. And if you've played a lot of games of this ilk, it's not a game that's going to wow you in the gameplay department at all. That's just the reality of it. Like one of the things I notice is that as you're expanding out in the options available to you, there's a lot of breadth of decision. Your decisions expands, but your decisions don't elevate. By that I mean that you have a variety of different shops. You're going to see up to 12 of them at any given point. There's the basic ones, and you upgrade them. Upgrading them is basically like have more resources, and then you've got your shops that you're going to see coming in. You don't know which ones they are, and you're going to see some of them have upgrades, some of them are interesting. They have little quirks and things, but you're not going to see this real elevation of this advancement. Like, okay, I started here, but I worked my way up to here. At any given time, any of these decisions, and they grow. I hate the word decision space, but the amount of opportunities available to you towards the end of the game, which thankfully is shorter than a lot of people like, is that you're just going to be like, okay, just evaluate all the options and pick the one that best matches what's ever going to get me an enchantment or points. And or whatever's on my cards, and nothing's wrong with that. Absolutely serviceable, absolutely just smooth. Nothing wrong with that. It's just not going to be something where you're going to feel like, wow, I started and I grew out and I built out, and now I've got this sort of wonderful engine going, and there's later buildings will come out, and they'll none of that. It's all flat architecture, and so that's not going to be appealing to everyone who's really focused on the gameplay as the essential choice on buy or don't buy. That's it. The other thing is that because of the way that the space is configured, it takes up a large amount of table space, which on the one hand is very pleasant to the eye. On the other hand, you've got different orientations all around of cards on your side, cards on the other side, cards, and you can angle them, whatever. But if you add more players, you're going to be spending a lot of time leaning over, looking for the upside down text and trying to remember. A few games in, it will become natural to you. But again, when I'm introducing this game to some of the more casual folk, because those are the ones that I think are the most likely to enjoy it, it does become kind of a pain, particularly with older players. I don't know if there's anything you can do too much about it. I mean, you've got this city, you've got stuff around the city. You don't, it's just the way that it's configured is going to be a little tricky for people if they have a hard time reading upside down or sideways text. The other thing is that there's just the enchantments are not that interesting to me. Like, I get it, you get some points, you accrue resources, but you're not, and then you enchant and trigger, and that part is not necessarily all that thrilling. The gathering and the manipulating of put a dragon, grab your resources here, do a dragon, do what it says, flame on, kind of stuff. That part's cool. The enchant, it's there. I mean, it's a good timer. It's just as good as timer as any. But and it's important because that's your focal point. But this is one of the cases where sometimes I criticize resource starvation, where it's like, man, it's just so hard to get even one thing that I need to eke out this victory. This is the opposite. This is resource glut. You're going to be accruing and just grabbing stuff left and right and building up just huge. When you're allowed to have 7 of each resource, like, that's pretty generous and pretty liberal. And you're gonna, and that's fine. You've got ways to consume those on a lot of those enchantment cards by saying, oh, I'm going to use 4 of this kind and 4 of that kind and stuff. I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of collision. Maybe early on in the game, it's you're not blocking anybody else from doing anything per se, but the whole give a resource to someone it's pretty mild. I don't think this game really wanted to be competitive and in your face, and I think it went to great lengths to make sure that didn't happen. So if you are interested in something where you're like, yeah, let's do some real meaty competition, you too might not be a candidate for this game. But yeah, those are my main critiques. So let's get into the pros. You're not going to find a more well-crafted presentation in its entirety than Flamecraft. I mean, it's getting rightfully rave reviews for the art style. I literally want to go watch Dragon Tales episodes because I just love the theme. The artwork is so just cute. It's so cute. Oh, it's so doggone cute. If that's your style, you're going to love this game. And I think a lot of times one of the things people go in and they go like, wow, this game is so overwhelmingly polished and such a high magnitude of quality of presentation and continuity that the gameplay itself pales in comparison, which, even though the gameplay itself is just solid and fine. The mat, the nice mat, the town cards, the variety of cards, and each one being fun. You always get bonuses for me if you use puns. I know not everyone's into it, but I certainly am. So all the puns are very well received, and I adore them. I think they're just cute. I love puns. Like, thank you for having a game with so many crazy puns. That I just love it. And I like the art style, the component quality. It's top notch in every way. The art style, the component quality, just the presentation on the cards, your helper card, the dragon, the quick way you run through things, the game, the rules. There were a couple ambiguities in kind of how the rules could have been interpreted in a couple ways, despite the fact that there's an overwhelming level of polish, love, and care and attention to the rule book. Pizza box manuals are not my favorite, but this one really took advantage of that in every way. Not only to give at its heart the game is easy, but sometimes you can mess it up and make it harder than it needs to be. And I think in this case they didn't do that, because ultimately this game reminds me a lot of Splendor, which we'll get into later. The big thing that I like is just, I don't know, there's just a charm and a theme to this game. The theme drives in this charm to a gameplay where you feel like, hey, I'm collecting resources. If you don't have a predisposition to where dragons always have to be angry, where you can have the fun, tea-loving dragons. It's only the second game. Fantastica was another game that took dragons and made them fun and teetotaling fun folk. This is the second game to sort of like unvillainize the dragon, and I think it did a really good job. I love this, the solo. I honestly think solo is just this. I mean, I play this with people or solo. It seems about the same to me, and so I enjoy it. I think some of the challenges they have for solo are great. I don't think that there's any issue there. Yeah, like I would say that there's a lot to like about this game, except for the fact that it fits so well. It hits the middle. Let's just get into my summary. This is a game like Splendor. There's two things you can do: you grab some stuff, or you buy some stuff. In Splendor, you grab 3 tokens. That's what you can do. Or you can buy a card using the tokens and the other cards you already had. It's that simple. And that simplicity is what makes it appealing for a lot of people who don't want a taxing, resource starved Agricola, will my family survive to round 8 kind of thing. They just want something fun and frolicky and pleasing. And this is almost too loosely constructed in that direction for people who do want at least somewhat of a feeling of tension or such. This is not. This has pretty much happy moments, shiny, happy meeples holding hands, but the thing is, Splendor is easy to play start to finish, and if you're gonna skew towards that easiness, then it does become problematic when you start to have 10, 11, 12 different options with enchantment options, and you've got all these things going on. Someone who's a Eurogamer oftentimes will come in and go, this is just these are just flat decisions that just pick the one that makes the most sense and go with it, and there you go. Whereas people that are new are going to be like, oh, I'm starting to feel overwhelmed, even though these choices are simple. There's so many of them that I'm like, okay, I think I get it. And then I'm reading all these cards and all that stuff and going around and like, okay, I kind of get it. By your third or fourth game, if you've memorized it, that's great. But a lot of people are getting hit with this the first and second time are going to be like, is Splendor just as good? Or something like Splendor, Century Spice Road, or whatever. So I honestly can't say that this is like the greatest game. I can say this is one of the most joyful art styles I've seen in a long time, and I really like it. I will pull it out and play it, probably not as frequently as I would a game that was just more concise in its simplicity, or a game that was a little more elevated in its complexity. It fits right in the middle. If that sounds interesting to you, like, sure, I'd like a step up for Splendor in a delightful way that doesn't involve me getting this is not Game of Thrones. These are not dragon eggs that are gonna barbecue you into a crisp, tender player. But at the same time, it's a joy. It's a joyful game. It fits in the middle. I'd probably give it about a 7 based on what I've seen. One, for the incredible levels of polish, but then drawing it back because it just kind of fits so directly in the middle that it doesn't really evoke like a need to play it all the time, or play it game after game in a session. It's pleasant in its own right, and maybe that pleasantness plays against it for some of us. But again, if pleasantness is something you want, you're gonna find it in Flamecraft. So that's what I got for you. Take care, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games.